The Nigerian Labour Congress has asked for a downward review of wages of Nigerian political office holders in Nigeria. Are our politicians getting too much? To find out and dissect the issue tonight. And Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has responded to the protests of Christians in Nigeria on Sunday over the killings and state of insecurity in Nigeria. He says there is no place for those who politicize religion in the country. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley at Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos. Let's begin tonight's program with a message of President Muhammadu Buhari responding to the protests of Christians who took to the streets last Sunday in protest of the killings in Nigeria and the state of insecurity. The president says that the origination of their protest is the shocking, unacceptable death of Pastor Lawani Andimi at the hands of Boko Haram. He says he feels their pain and that of his family for the loss. The president says he believes all life is sacred. In a statement by the presidency today, the president said, and I quote, "This means, however, that we must stop false claims, not only serve to divide one community against the other. There is no place in Nigeria for those who politicize religion." He concluded the statement by saying that we will not defeat the terrorists nor speed the return for those citizens, young and old, taken by them by division in our own ranks. To pull apart is to play into the hands of the terrorists. This is what they want. Those are the words from the presidency today. There are some other political stories that we are monitoring for you, and here on our political roundup.
President Muhammadu Buhari has officially presented to the public the Nigeria Visa Policy 2020 at the State House in Abuja. He says the review of the visa policy is intended to attract innovation, specialized skills and knowledge from abroad to complement local ones. The Visa Policy 2020 is to enhance business opportunities and achieve African integration through the visas on arrival for holders of passports of African Union countries.
I am confident that the implementation of the Nigerian Visa Policy 2020 will support the attainment of a globally competitive economy for Nigeria by building on the efforts of the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council.
Lawmakers in the House of Representatives today kicked against a motion to evacuate Nigerians allegedly stranded in China following the outbreak of the coronavirus. Members voted massively against the motion raised by the spokesperson of the House, Benjamin Okezie, denying him the opportunity to even present the motion. The Speaker of the House, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, repeatedly tried to get the lawmakers to allow Mr. Okezie move his motion, but the lawmakers remained adamant. One of the lawmakers, Honorable Nicholas Osai, insisted that China has better facilities to handle the situation than Nigeria. A mild drama ensued as the two other sponsors of the bill declined to second the motion for it to be moved. Labour leaders in Kwara State have given a 14-day ultimatum to the Kwara State government to implement the new minimum wage or face industrial action. The State Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Chairman of the Trade Union Congress say the government is not sincere to the plight of the workers. Despite shifting ground, they added that government officials at the meeting were not ready to yield, which led to the walking out of the meeting. The ultimatum, which starts on January the 31st, will end on February the 20th, failure which the workers will decide on the next line of action. A coalition of civil society organizations in Abuja have criticized the National Assembly for maintaining sealed lips over the non-submission of annual financial accounts by 11 departments and agencies of government as contained in the 2017 audit report of the Auditor General of the Federation. According to the group, these MDAs have continued to enjoy annual financial appropriations from the National Assembly without any question about their spending. They are now asking the National Assembly and the various supervising ministries to be alive to their responsibilities and perform proper oversight in order to ensure accountability.
Let's get a seat, everyone, and let's get started. It's no joke, anyone. What we're discussing tonight is of some great importance to the pockets of the nation. Let's start off on our main story tonight. Do you think Nigerian politicians who hold offices get too much? I mean, in salaries and emolument. Well, the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, today is asking the federal government to consider a downward review of salaries for political office holders. The president of the NLC, Mr. Ayuba Waba, who spoke at a news conference in Abuja today, insists that the existing gap in the wages of political office holders and those of civil servants is already so wide that any upward review will be insensitive. Take a listen to him.
I was thinking that review can be upward or downwards. And in the case of our political office holder, it should be downwards, so that we can be at the same level because we go to the same market. Yes. They should also have be on the same margin of 30,000, and then you look at specific allowance or special allowances. That's what is done in other climes. There must be justification to arrive at a wage. Equal pay for work of equal value. That's the position of ILO.
Well, a few days back, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission that is responsible for fixing who gets what and how much he gets based on what he or she does in the public sphere says it planned to review the wages of politicians. Now, the Nigerian Labour Congress is saying politicians don't deserve more. In fact, they deserve a salary cut. But the real issue is that who are these people we are talking about when you talk about political office holders? Well, there are public officials and there are political office holders. Don't get it wrong. Let's give you a category and a list of those whom are being talked about here. Take a look at the list that we have for you when we break it down for you. So they include the president, the vice president, ministers, special advisors and assistants, governors, deputy governors, commissioners and their assistants, local government officials and councillors. These are some of those who are referred to as political office holders. And NLC is saying they need a pay cut. Let's discuss this and get a sense of what this means altogether for us as a nation. Joining me to discuss this is a former member of the House of Representatives from our Abuja studio. He's an expert in governance and development, as a lawyer too, Honorable West Idausa. And beside him is Mr. Uche Ekwe, head of international relations at the Nigerian Labour Congress, is also the liaison officer to the National Assembly. We have from Ibadan, joining us via Skype, is Professor Niyi Olofela, is a former Commissioner of Education and Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Let's begin by getting started. Let me first and foremost get the views of Honorable West Idausa. First and foremost, clarify for us, are our public political office holders getting too much?
Well, thank you, Sheung. It's a very important topic. In terms of what the actual salary might be, it doesn't appear to me that they might be getting too much. But I think in terms of the allowances, definitely we need a downward review. This is where the real bulk of money is believed to be siphoned through. I am of the opinion that the Revenue Mobilization Allocation Commission seemed to be unwilling to do its job. Since 2015, it has continuously talked about a review strategy being implemented. We haven't seen any of that. I hope that it will have the political will in 2020 to do something about the allowances of political office holders.
But interestingly, Honorable West Idausa, since the time that you were in the National Assembly, there's been a cry that the National Assembly members get way too much. In fact, they are perhaps the highest earning lawmakers in the world, but yet they still get that kind of money in terms of what they get as extra in terms of emoluments.
Well, that has been a recurring decima in the crisis that we face as a people. And that's why you find that even the National Assembly members themselves have been often attacked by members of the public. And even at the time we got there in 1999, we were already victims of a a big shout by the Nigerian people. But I think since then, the graph has gone upwards. Many have claimed that it's been inflationary. Others say it's a way of getting back the cost that people put into political electioneering campaigns. Either way, it makes no sense that we do not reflect the present situation and economic reality in the country. There must be a time to stop the increase and be real in dealing with allowances.
Mr. Ekwe, give us a sense of what the NLC really is talking about here. Are you saying, for example, that the president of the country or the chairman of a local government should get what a civil servant in any federal parastatal or any state parastatal is getting? Is that what the NLC is saying in terms of the downward review you are asking for?
No, that's not what the NLC is saying. If you have listened to the president carefully, he said that work should be measured on what is being done. Yeah, let nobody say, because the NLC is not averse to some realities. For example, even the civil servant, not everybody earns the 30,000. That's minimum. And as the responsibility goes higher, there is an upward movement of the money. But what we are saying, that the gap between what the worker, the civil servant gets, and the political office holder is getting is so wide. Take, for example, a professor in the university earns almost 10 times lower than a councillor in a local government. That's not realistic. You can't justify that. You take a judge who have grown through the rungs of the ladder of the society to become a judge, and what he gains is far less than what a local government chairman gets. So those are the issues. The gap is too wide. And the basic thing is that right now is so insensitive. You cannot remove some of the security challenges to some of the feelings. Some years back, about 10, 15, 20 years, or even more, the trade union movement and the civil societies were forewarning that if the gap between the haves and have-not in the country, if nothing happens about it, a time will come where it will be dangerous for people to be riding their cars on the street. The danger in this is that some people have worked hard, not that they just woke up and started earning. Over the years, they've worked to earn. But now, because of the level of mistrust and the gap between the haves and have-not in the society, the reaction has started emerging. And from outright criminals, and for those who are worried about this gap, the insecurity situation have increased.
Let's get a view and a very quick one before we go on break from Professor Oluofela, who was once a commissioner. So we looked at it at the federal level, now at the state level. What is it that is there, Professor, that is so much that you think needs to be cut out? All right, we'll get back to Professor Oluofela, but in the real sense, before we go on the break, Mr. Ekwe, give us in 20 seconds, what do you think and how you think this can be tackled in terms of dealing with the downward review that NLC is asking for?
Well, my former colleague West hit the nail on the head. It's about the Revenue and Fiscal Mobilization Commission summing up the political will to reduce the allowances. For example, if an allowance of a federal lawmaker between 1999 and to 2003 have had about 1,000% increase by now, the inflationary rate have not had 1,000% increase. So they know what it used to be.
Mr. Ekwe, just a moment. Let's take a break. When we come back, we look at what this means. perhaps maybe we can even say the figures that the political office holders are getting and make Nigerians get a feeling of whether or not this is outrageous or it's just okay. We take a moment on the program, and when we return, we dig deeper into this matter. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. A lot of the times when you hear the labor union speak about a matter, it's usually about workers' welfare. But when you hear that they are protesting about or talking about what other people are doing, that means it also affects workers' welfare. This time around, they are saying that political office holders are getting way too much and it needs to be balanced out. There is a need of a downward review of political office holders' wages. So let's get back to the conversation with my partner tonight on the program. Mr. Uche Ekwe is the head of international relations at the NLC and the NLC's liaison to the National Assembly. Also is Honorable Wes Idahosa, former lawmaker and lawyer, and also a governance and development expert. From Ibadan is Professor Adeniyi Olufela, a former commissioner of education in Oyo State and public affairs analyst. Let me come to you, Professor. They say you have been in public office, and as a politician, they say that what you guys got were way too much. Not in terms of salary, but usually it is hidden in those emoluments. Give us a sense, since you're out of office now, you may be able to give us what exactly is the secret behind what the NLC say is way too much. Is it fair for what political office holders are getting, Professor?
First and foremost, let me state my practical experience. I've been a council chairman before. When I was a local government chairman, my own salary that time was about 750,000 naira. 400,000 naira for my salary, then 850,000 naira as the security votes. So essentially, let's say I that time I was earning 750,000 naira. When I was the commissioner for education, my salary was about 400,000 naira. I equally need to state that as a professor in the university, my salary was about 400,000 naira. So when you look at my own remuneration as commissioner for education in Oyo State, from year 2016 to 2019, there was really no difference between my salary and my salary as a university professor and my salary as a commissioner. But when you look at the issues globally, most of the time when people complain, they complain mostly about salaries that our contemporaries and our colleagues are earning at the national assemblies and things like that. When you look at the surface, it appears as if those salaries are too much in reality. But when you find out what they are being confronted with in their various constituencies, you will know that even if they get double of that one, it will still not be.
Professor, I mean, let me for an understanding, a lot of people who do not understand, but some of us who have a sense of what happens, it's the fact that it's not about the salaries sometimes, it's about the allowances. I'm very certain that you got more allowances than your salary when you were commissioner and when you were chairman of a local council.
You see, the point is, in all honesty, that was my salary, including the allowance and things like that. My take home was about 400,000 naira. But what you can say is that, is there any other perquisite of office? I will say yes, because I had an official car. Then I also received about 100,000 naira for my petrol on a monthly basis. But when you look at that one, compared to when I was council chairman, clearly the salary of a commissioner was not up to the level of the council chairman. More or less, a council chairman is the governor or the chief executive of a community. It's like a mayor of a state. So to me, and when you also look at how naira is nosediving these days in terms of dollars equivalent and things like that, the economy of the state is actually reducing the value of that money.
But
But
let
when
me
you
ask you
look
this
at
pointed question. Since you're a politician and now you're speaking, you've been at the level of an average Nigerian as a professor. Is it
yes,
true? Do you think, in all honesty, that politicians are
yes.
getting way more than the economy of the country can bear? Just a quick one.
No, what I'm saying is that when you look at what we are facing as a nation,
Wow. The connection is really getting horrible. Let me go to, let's leave Ibadan for a moment. Let's go to Abuja. And let me get the closing moment with my guests in Abuja. Honorable Wesley Dawson, where do we go from here? You've been in National Assembly. You've heard a former commissioner in Oyo State. You heard Mr. Ekwe, who is an NLC leader. Give us a sense of where we need to go from here. Will politicians yield for a downward review of their salary? If not, what do we do?
Well, I think they have no option now. If they really like our country and they are nationalistic, they must begin to think about that. That conversation should commence now. But that's not the only place where you have the problem. The NLC itself and other well-meaning Nigerians should begin to look at the duplicity that occurs in public commissions, public parastatals, and so on. There is really so much duplication of functions in the public service. Whether we like it or not, this is also a real big problem for giving real opportunity for wasting money. And that's where the Oronsai report will remain a thought in our mind. And then you have to also remember that there are also big parastatals that, like the NMPC, the FIROS, and so on, that are way out of the reach of the country at the moment. So there need to be a holistic packaging of a review to bring everyone back to reality and close the gap, so that we can bring down the insecurity in the country, which most people are tracing to the disparity between the haves and the have-nots.
Mr. Ekwe, lead us to the close of the program in 30 seconds. Is it a stalemate of some sort? What will the NLC do if nothing changes?
If you remember, sometime in 1999, precisely, even the NLC have to mobilize against the National Assembly. Incidentally, I was a member of the National Assembly at that point in time. They mobilized against us for what at that time was termed high cost of governance. And now, that cost of governance then have tripled with about 3,000%. So now, it is not even a question of what the NLC should do. West captured it. It will be the height of insensitivity not to yield to that. Because at the crux, a major chunk of the crisis of insecurity in this country we must face is the economic situation.
All right, we need to go now, Mr. Ekwe, and let me give Professor Olofela 10 seconds to give us his closing thought. Professor, the imbalance or the gap, how do we close this in 10 seconds?
We are going through a difficult time as a nation. So there should be a consideration for either maintaining the current salary of public office holder or a little bit downward review of the salary. That's what I just want to say. Thank you.
Sincere thoughts there, Professor. It's hard to agree because your explanation earlier deviates from your final position. But thank you so much, Professor Adeni Olofela, former Commissioner of Education in Oyo State and Public Affairs Analyst, Mr. Uche Ekwe, Head of International Relations at the NLC and the NLC Liaison Officer to NAS, and Honorable Wesley Dawson, former lawmaker, lawyer, governance and development expert. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. You've been served tonight on Politics Today, and that's how far we can go. Many thanks for watching, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.